Well, morning everybody. This is Justin, and it's Monday morning here. I got married this weekend to the most wonderful woman in the world, and I'm so blessed to have her in my life. The wedding went really well, and just a simple wedding. Just focusing on the ceremony, focusing on God's intent for that. So that was really cool. Then we had a really nice dinner afterwards. So yeah, I had a really great weekend. I hope you guys all did as well. And yeah, here's my first post as a married man. So, a lot of you guys probably recognize this knife. This is the Hinderer XM-18 3.5 inch. This knife's been around for quite a while, probably, I don't know, 20 years or so, maybe not quite that long, but very well known knife in the community. Um, yeah, I mean, what more can I say about it? It's one of the best knives, in my opinion, on the market. It's the design hasn't changed a lot, although there is one feature that relates to that little mark right there on the flipper tab. That's been a big deal and a big change for Hinder in the past few years. So I'll explain that a little bit more as I get into the details. But yeah, this is my review of the XM-18 3.5 inch, and let's go ahead and get started. So looking at blade steel on this guy, these used to come in, I think, S35VN, but most are either 20CV or M390 now. So I gave it a score of a 10. I mean, you can't really get much better than 20CV. I know you can get into the discussion of what am I going to use the knife for? What's its purpose? How much abuse is it going to take? Or not abuse, but how much, toughness does it need, et cetera, et cetera. But overall, just looking at all the characteristics of a steel: toughness, edge retention, stainless, or I guess resistance to corrosion, um, ease of sharpening. I mean, you can't really get much better than 20 CV, so I gave that a score of a 10. Moving on to the clip, this has Hinderer's own design, I guess, in-house design clip. You can see here it has the two Phillips screws that connect it. I've always thought these clips were pretty excellent. Good retention, but they're not too tight. I mean, the knife's very easy to get into the pocket. Um, and yeah, I mean, you can swap this clip out for a bunch of different designs. That's another highlight of this knife is you can swap things out like nobody's business on this thing. I mean, you can swap the clips out, you can swap these barrels out, you can swap out the over travel stop, this little filler tab right here. This scale is actually swapped out. So this knife came as it had a blue G10 scale, and then it had this bronze lock side, but I swapped it out for a carbon fiber scale. Yeah, just all kinds of stuff. Very, very high level of very high amount of customization on these. So that's a really cool feature of these knives that I really like. But yeah, so good clip. It does leave a little bit to be desired in terms of the amount that's left out of your pocket. So you can see about that. And no, that knife is not close to me, so don't worry about that. So I gave the clip a score of an 8. Just docked it a couple points because it's not a deep carry and a decent amount of the knife's left out of your pocket. So I'm not really a big fan of these clips that have the tandem screws like that. I just think it leaves more of the knife out of your pocket than necessary. I know, the way this design is, it kind of makes sense, but they could have put these side by side in my opinion. So that's the only reason it's an 8, not higher. Moving on to lock type. This is a frame lock, like most all Hinderers. It's a titanium frame lock, and then you can see the steel lock bar insert right there. That is also a new feature that Hinderer implemented fairly recently, so it's kind of cool they did that. I think it's a good idea. I don't know if how much improvement that would be in terms of like lock wear, but I'm sure it does help. So it's just nice that they're kind of in the mode of continuous improvement on these, just making the steel better, adding the insert, stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, it is a frame lock. Looking at the materials on this, the carbon fiber scale, I'm not going to consider for the score because this is an aftermarket scale, although it is produced by Hinderer, so it's kind of like a factory scale. It just didn't come with a knife. So you have the titanium lock side here, and then I had a blue G10 scale on this side. You have the steel hardware. You have these barrel back spacers. I'm not sure if those are steel, titanium. I'm not sure what material those are, but overall, I mean, really nice materials. I gave this a score of 9 for materials. If it had come like this with the carbon fiber scale, for sure would have given it a 10. So looking at the size, so this knife, in my opinion, is one of the nicest just in terms of size. I mean, it is a little bit heavier. I mean, you can see here how thick the scales are and the blade stock. I'll compare it to the Mannix for you. So yeah, thick blade stock, thick handle. And this is all titanium. And again, on the other side, it was G10. It's a little wider now that I put the carbon fiber scale. But yeah, I think in terms of like length and then blade to handle ratio, and then the amount of space it takes up in the pocket, just a really nice size. So there's the Hinderer there. And then here's the Mannix in SPY 27. So pretty similar overall length. The Hinderer is just a little bit longer, not much. And then here's the Buck 110, which, as you might have guessed, is a little bit longer than the Hinderer. So yeah, I mean, falls right in there. Probably around 8 to 9 inches, I'd say, overall length. Cutting edge is at that 3.5 inch length. I actually had a 3-inch XM-18, one of the, I think it's called a Heritage Edition in the 01 or 02 steel. I think it's 01, but that one was just too small. It's almost like everything shrunk on that model, and I sold that one pretty quickly. But this one, in terms of size, in my opinion, is just about perfect. And then something else to highlight, I'll just stick it into this category, but the ergonomics on these are excellent. You have this nice jimping at the top that's not sharp, but it provides really nice purchase for your thumb. Nice areas for your fingers. You can see this cut out here where your index finger can rest, or you can choke up into this coil here. So just really nice ergonomics on these. Up there with like a Spyderco Mannix or something like that, which in my opinion is one of the best knives in terms of ergonomics on the market. So, and that was one of Rick Hinderer's goals when designing this knife, was ergonomics. He just wanted it to be very easy to use, have very solid purchase in the hand, and it was also designed to be used with gloves. So yeah, I believe his background was firefighting, and he just, you know, his intention was to design this to be a user, and I think he really did a great job on that. Moving on to action. So this is where I will explain this symbol. So this is something relatively new for Hinderer. This is called their tri-way system. So when you purchase these knives, they come equipped with the ball bearings in the pivot here. But then they also include some phosphor bronze washers, and then I believe they're Teflon washers, which that's what the Hinderers of old, I'll say, had the earlier designs. Teflon's okay, but when you're at this price point, it gets to be a little bit of a question mark. It's like, you know, why are they using Teflon washers for a knife at this price point? I think their argument always was, well, they're resistant to dirt, they're resistant to mud, contamination. And again, you know, Rick Hinderer wanted this knife to be an extreme user, so therefore he wanted the pivot to be as resistant to those kinds of things as possible. So they used to come with Teflon washers, but I think it's really great that he changed over to this system. And I don't think the price point on these really went up that much. So yeah, this came with the bearings. It was extremely smooth when I bought it. And then tried the action of the box. I mean, it was really, really nice. I actually swapped the bearings out for phosphor bronze washers. I think they're phosphor bronze. I don't think I put the Teflon in there. Yeah, I put the phosphor bronze in there. So when you swap out the bearings for the washers, they also have these spacers because the bearings, due to the cage and the balls are thicker. So you have to also put the spacers in there, which is nice to include those. So the action did suffer a little bit, but I still think it's a really nice action. I mean, you can see here, just kind of give it a tug on the flipper tab and it comes right out. I don't have any concerns with it. I think it's great. The action with the bearings is definitely more drop shutty, if that's a term. You can see here with the phosphor bronze washers, it's a little stiff, but not too bad. I don't know if I can do it to the side here. Yeah, I mean, it's not super smooth with those, but it comes out reliably almost every time. So anyway, in terms of out of the box action, I give it a 9. I think it had an excellent action. Wasn't quite on the level of a Norseman, but it was pretty close. And to me, that's just a testament of the quality of these knives, that they can include the other styles of pivot systems, I guess, or pivot options between the washers and the bearings, and that they'll all function very well, in my opinion. So really, really nice feature of these knives. Moving on to the hardware. The hardware on this is a little bit of a mixed bag. I give it a score of a 6. And the reason why it's not higher is because Hinderer still uses these stupid proprietary spanner bits. And then I'm not sure if this is a standard size or not. I tried one of these bits out of my set and I couldn't find one that fits. It may be a standard size. So he sells a tool called the Armorer's tool, which includes this bit, it's like a regular screwdriver head, and then this spanner bit. But then you also have these Phillips screws on the clip and the filler tab. I think this screw is similar to this. It's like a hex head. And then this is also a hex head for the lock bar insert. But yeah, just kind of a mixed bag. The Armorer's tool is like $75. I think spanner bits are stupid. To be honest, I just don't know why companies still do that. I'm sure it's related to making more money because the hardware is proprietary. You have to buy the proprietary tool. I've seen where guys they'll take a penny or something and cut out the middle and then use that on these spanners. But I would recommend getting the tool. So anyway, I give the hardware a score of a 6. I guess at least you can change your clip without buying that tool. Looking at price, this one I think I paid around $450, $460 for. Considering the materials, you get 20 CV blade steel, titanium lock side, steel lock bar insert over travel stop. You get the nice clip. You get the blue G10 scale. I think it's a good value. You get the tri-way pivot system. So I gave it a score of a 9 on price. Yeah, that's a lot of money, but you're also getting a lot of knife. And as I said, really, really well made, thick stock everywhere. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good value. And I think this carbon fiber scale added I don't know, maybe $80 to $100. So, and then quality is the last category that I rank. I gave this score a 10, which I guess I've given a few other knives a score of a 10, but yeah, in terms of quality, this was perfectly centered when I received it. I was able to change out the pivot and put in the phosphor bronze washers, still perfectly centered. I'd had issues before with that when I would try to change out the pivot or rotate out a scale and I had to take the knife apart. Just didn't want to go back together in the same way that it came out of the box. But this one's been great. I was able to get it back together. I was able to get the blade centered and dial in the action. The machining is really nice all around. You can see the nice chamfering on the titanium side here. The thumb jimping is really nice. No sharp edges there. I mean, the blade, you can see a nice even grind on both sides. So yeah, I think this, I think a score of 10 is well deserved for this knife for quality. And then looking at competition, this is kind of like I don't know, I'd put it in the same league as like a Chris Reeve in Kosi. Now I was going to say Sabenza, but in Kosi. And then the Strider SNG, I believe, because the SMF is a bigger one. But yeah, that's what I would normally say is the competition for this. However, Striders are kind of hard to get right now. They do drops every so often. I guess Chris Reeve knives are too. But yeah, if you like this knife, maybe check out the Strider, maybe the Chris Reeve. Those two knives, in my opinion, aren't as strong of a value. The Chris Reeve being more so than the Strider. The Strider pushes $500, and I'm not sure if it's a problem anymore. But those used to be known for lock rock developing. They don't have the steel lock bar insert. They do have an over travel stop. They basically seal the pivot so you can't disassemble those, which I think is ridiculous. Chris Reeve, they send you the tools, they send you grease, they encourage you to disassemble. So I'd probably lean more towards that. That's also a really well built knife, made for hard use, and their warranty is great. So anyway, just some other considerations. And then Rayot makes some good options too with carbon fiber handles, nice blade steel. Like the Jack 2.0 I reviewed is kind of in the same league as this, similar price point. So anyway, a little bit longer review on this one, but I think it deserved it. It's a really, really nice knife, really well known, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. Have a good rest of the day, and we'll talk to you guys in the next one. And before I go, I wanted to tell you the overall score on this was a 61, so it's definitely up there. So anyway, thanks guys. Have a good one. See ya.